guys, hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. I'm sorry I'm getting started so late, but I had to hop on to talk about Farrah Abraham calling out Catelynn and Tyler because this is crazy. I can't even, it's always crazy to me that Farrah likes to call people out because I'm like, she's one of those that I feel like you really can't throw stones because of all the stuff that you do with your life. And I'm not even talking about like the OnlyFans. We're going to talk about it because this is crazy. As we all know, Catelynn and Tyler, they started their podcast, Break It Down with Kate and Ty. They have talked about adoption. I think there's been like 2 podcasts to talk about adoption. They've talked about it just on their social medias a lot lately. It's going to come up on the show. In interviews, they get asked about it. So there's been a lot of discussion about the adoption. Carly, Brandon, and Teresa. I will say, though, Tyler recently made a post where he asked people to refrain from talking about Brandon, Teresa, and Carly. Catelynn and Tyler, while they want to like continue educating themselves on adoption and educate other people on adoption, not by them getting on, okay, Lulu, I'll check that. Not by them getting on their podcast saying this is what we know about adoption, but by them bringing other people on, the adoptees, birth moms, adoptive moms, counselors, and things like that, like people that can really like educate us on adoption. And I think that's good. I do think that it's always a good idea to educate people because I mean, I know for me personally, I always thought like, oh, adoption is a great thing. I never once thought about the trauma that adoption could cause for anybody. Never thought about the trauma that it causes the birth parents. Never thought about the trauma that the adopting parents have. Never thought about the trauma that the child has. I never considered it until I was listening to Tyler one day and he said adoption is trauma. It's not all love. So I think it's smart to educate people because I never considered the fact that adoption could be trauma, right? However, I think it's also smart for them to leave Brandon and Teresa and Carly out of it. Like they can continue educating people on adoption without them talking about specifically about Brandon, Teresa, and Carly. So they did make a post saying like, hey, can we ask everybody to no longer bring up Brandon, Teresa, and Carly? I think that was a smart move, right? Either way, there has just been so much that's been discussed. And like anytime they do press, anytime Catelynn is doing an interview, she's going to be asked, so what's going on with Carly? So what's going on with Brandon and Teresa? The last interview that she did with E! News, she said like they cut contact. Like they are, we don't have contact. And they closed the adoption. Production pushes them to talk about it as well. So they put up a podcast the other day talking about adoption, and Farrah commented on it. So we're going to look at what she had to say. It's crazy. And listen, Farrah and Catelynn and Tyler, they kind of have drama stemming back from when Farrah first when she appeared on, when she did her corn video, right? So years ago, Farrah was on Teen Mom. She was all like, she wasn't really a favorite through anybody because all of the cast were like, she could be very mean, the way that she treated production. So either way, we know that Farrah did her corn video. I have to call it corn for, YouTube purposes. I don't want to get whatever. And the whole way she went about it, like she lied about it, saying that it was her boyfriend and the video was leaked. But then she was photographed going to the corn company with Sophia and her dad in tow, where she worked out this deal for a couple of $1 million where they got the rights to her video. And then it was put out there. And a lot of the cast had a problem with the fact that she used the name Teen Mom in the name of her corn video is Backdoor Teen Mom. Macy said she didn't want her son on a show that a corn star is on because she's like, my son is on the show. Like as long as Farrah's on it, like I'm not gonna have my son on it because now, my son is on a show that's associated with a corn star. I'm not gonna have that. Farrah and Macy did this big ordeal. Catelynn and Tyler, they didn't like it. They spoke out about the fact that Farrah was a corn star, whatever. Well, then when Catelynn and Tyler started their OnlyFans, where Catelynn started it, it was just Tyler. Farrah spoke out about that and was like, wow, really? Like, such a hypocrite you are to talk about me when, the video went out and now you started OnlyFans. Tyler did say on an Instagram live, like last September, that he does kind of regret how hard he was on Farrah. He did say, I want to say he said there's still a difference between OnlyFans versus like full on what Farrah did. And if you've seen Farrah's video, it's wild. I watched it. I hate to say, listen, I'm too nosy. That's why I do what I do, because I'm nosy, okay? I had to watch it because I was just so nosy. I was like, I need to see what she did. And it was wild. I mean, that is a full-on, the video that Farrah did was a full-on corn flick. Ain't no ifs and buts about it. It was a corn flick, okay? If I ever saw one, it was. I mean, it was wild. So he did say that he wished he wouldn't have commented on what Farrah did. It's her life, whatever. But that, what he was doing was a little bit different than what Farrah was doing, because it wasn't like, he's not on film and putting out pictures and videos of him banging somebody. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate the fact that I can crack you guys up so well talking about corn and telling you guys that I'm watching. It was only for research. The only reason I watched that video was for research only. There was nothing pleasurable about it. It was awkward. Okay. I can tell you from the OF photos that I have seen of Tyler, and I have seen them for research. Okay. Yes, I looked at several of his OnlyFans photos, and there is a big difference between Tyler's OnlyFans photos versus what Farrah was doing. Because, I mean, I haven't on his OnlyFans, which I haven't seen all of them. I'm not subscribed to his OnlyFans. I've just seen pictures that were posted afterwards. And yes, it was for educational purposes only. I took it for the team. And May said, girl, I watched it out of curiosity. No shame here. See, I wasn't the only one. Thank you for admitting that. So as someone that has watched her video, and then also there was a video out there of her when she went to make the mold for her vagina. Did anybody watch that? It was, I want to say it was maybe after she made the mold for her vagina, where she kind of demonstrated how she made the mold for her vagina. Because yeah, Farrah literally went on to sell Rex toys, if you know what I'm saying. So she was like full on into the business. Does he show the package? I never saw any pictures where full dong was on display. I'll tell you that. And I was not subscribed though. So I only saw photos that come out later, right? The Greyhound girl says, I just joined the live and what? I'm so sorry. So what I've seen though with Tyler is like skimpy underwear that are like thongs, essentially. Where Tyler is wearing like red thongs where the back goes up his butt, and it's men thongs because the front has a place for to hang, and he's just standing there with it hanging and literally hanging. Let me tell you, anyways, him in gray sweatpants that are super tight, and he's like muscles, there's one of him in the shower and he's like looking up and the water's like, anyways. So if I would say Tyler's OnlyFans is nowhere near what I've seen, what I saw with Farrah. I saw all of Farrah. Okay? Every bit of it. I mean, I would say that was absolutely a corn video for Farrah. Do I agree with either one of them? I personally do not, but that's just where I stand on the topic. As a parent, I would never do it. I think it's embarrassing to your children. I think children get teased over it. I know they do because Janelle's kids, Marissa and Jace got teased over it. Kaiser got teased over it. I mean, kids are, so I would always consider my kids, and first off, I wouldn't want my body out there like that. No, ma'am. Oh my goodness. Farrah's video was diabolical. Okay, you watched it too. See? Yeah, every inch of her body was absolutely like full display. So I do think it's a little different. He did say that. He said, listen, I shouldn't have said nothing about what Farrah did. That's whatever. That's whatever she wants to do. But what I do on OnlyFans and what she does, what she did on that was completely different. And I do agree with him there. Some may not. Watch the video if you don't and go look at Tyler's pictures and you may then agree. Either way, they have had beef for some time. Tyler, Catelynn, Farrah, they have had beef for some time due to that, right? Well, now they're beefing again because I feel like Farrah knows that so many people are like attacking Catelynn and Tyler right now over this thing. Farrah has been wanting something else to pop off with Catelynn and Tyler for some time now because months ago, when Farrah was promoting her comedy tour, she did a video where she was like, "Oh my goodness, I hope Catelynn and Tyler don't show up to my comedy video, what was my comedy set, like they showed up to my celebrity boxing match and sat front row." That was so weird. When literally, yes, she had 2 videos. She said that was so weird that they showed up to my celebrity boxing match video and sat front row when she didn't even go to her boxing match. Like it was canceled. So when I saw that video of Farrah saying that months ago when she was promoting her comedy tour, I knew then I was like, oh, she's trying to start some beef with like Catelynn and Tyler because probably to promote this. You know, like, oh, did you see Farrah's, where she was talking about her comedy tour and she was talking about Catelynn and Tyler, or maybe for me to do a video, or just TikTokers to do videos over it, or creators, YouTube creators to do videos over it because, oh, look what she said while she was talking about her comedy tour. So that a lot of times celebrities will do that when they have something coming up, when they have a movie that's coming out, when they have something coming up, they'll try to start some drama to bring more attention on this movie or this whatever they got going on, right? So that's what I took it as. I was like, oh, she's trying to start drama with Catelynn and Tyler, but really to bring attention to this comedy tour. Yes, she did. She did her first show like over the weekend, and I heard it was not great. I watched some bits of it, and she didn't say anything very funny to me. It was like whatever. She tooted her own horn a lot, like, "Oh, I'm a celebrity. I'm a this. I'm a teen mom. I'm a that. I'm an author. I'm a this. I'm a that. I'm a this." Was it hard? It was very much a tooting her own horn type of situation. Anyways, let's get into what she said about Catelynn and Tyler because on their last podcast, she commented and she is like going in on it. I'm like, girl, you ain't got no reason to talk. So let's listen to what Farrah had to say. So on one of the latest podcasts, Farrah said, Tyler and Kate are gaslighting those struggling with infertility because they cannot take accountability for their own mental health and action. Perhaps they shouldn't have listened to other adults regarding their adoption 17 years ago. It's essential that they seek help from a psychiatrist and stop speaking on behalf of individuals who are not present and who want nothing to do with their criminal, toxic behavior and abusive family. That's wild. Both of them need to address their addictions. Wow, I didn't know Kate and Ty had addictions. Stop blaming others and embrace the principles of the 12-step program. They should focus on loving their children they have while keeping them away from their toxic family, especially since they should have learned from my story on MTV. It's time to stop projecting their trauma onto their children and break the cycle. Children are perceptive. They can see hypocrisy and narcissistic behavior. The child development within this family line is lacking. It's time for them to wake up and prioritize their health. And I'm like, and I see so many people saying, I agree with her. For once, I agree with Farrah. For once, I agree with her. And I'm like, Farrah cannot give anybody advice when she literally wanted to sell her poop paper. And she literally had this list. I don't remember what side it was on, but like 3 or 4 years ago, I found it. It was probably longer than that. It was like, and I don't know if she still does it. Well, I can tell you she still does some of the things, but I don't know if the site's still up. To where for like $100, she would literally send you a picture of her taking a crap. for like, maybe it was more than $100. Maybe it was like 1,000. I used to have the list. This was a list she made with the prices and what she would do. Boob pic, $50. Butthole pic, this much. A picture of me pooping, this much. Then she literally tried to sell toilet paper with her poop on it. So I'm like, Farrah, you literally can't say nothing. And I know a lot of people disagree with me, but I'm like, how much does Farrah really know about what's going on with Catelynn and Tyler? Like, no one, like, y'all should have learned from my story. Nobody learned from your story. What were we learning from your story? How to be rude? Because you're rude, Farrah. You are so rude. You know what? When I look at how Farrah treats her mom, which Deborah may have been a handful. Deborah may have been a handful. And Deborah may have been hard. Listen, my mom's a handful. My mom's hard to deal with. But you want to know what Nene ain't doing over here? Nene's my nickname. I'm not disrespecting my mom because that's my mom. Like, I may have to be like, Mama, calm down. Like, you're doing a little too much. Like, chill out. You hurt my feelings, or you're saying too much, or I don't agree with that. I'm respectful. That's my mother. When I look at how Catelynn and Tyler have tried to, like, be there for their parents and help their parents and set boundaries on, like, they went to therapy to figure out how to navigate having parents that were addicts. Tyler paid for Butch to be in like a really good rehab facility, like, because, and he was like, my dad was never there for me, like so I'm like looking at how Farrah don't even have anything to do with her mom because Farrah was mean to her mom versus how Catelynn and Tyler look at how they literally, even though their parents were the problem, like Catelynn and Tyler's parents were 1,000% the problem, but they went to therapy to try to figure out how to have a relationship with their parents without it affecting their mental health. That's why, like, on Teen Mom, like, family reunion or whatever it was, when Catelynn and April went, and Catelynn said, like, she has a boundary that when she was going to therapy, her therapist suggested that she make a boundary with her mom that you cannot drink in front of me because her mom's drinking is a trigger for her. Because, when she was little, her mom, being an alcoholic, she would be really mean to her and say really nasty things to her. So I'm like, what are we learning from your story? Like, I can't think of anything that, like, me watching Farrah back, honestly, it's how hateful she is. Like, how not to be hateful to someone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even understand. I mean, I will say that some parents don't earn the title mom or dad, and that has nothing to do with us kids. But, like, going back and watching, I'll say Deborah was a little, like, overbearing, but I don't think Deborah deserved to be cut off. I I mean, Farrah is one of those people that it's her way or the highway. And it's like Catelynn and Tyler, they went to the ends of the earth to try to, make sure they could still have their parents in their life, but still set healthy boundaries. Farrah will just cut you off, and that's it. Like, you don't, oh, you upset her a couple of times, you're out. But I'm going to go over a couple of more things about this because I have more things to say about this. And I know not everybody agrees with me when it comes to, like, Catelynn and Tyler because I do sympathize with them. And because, going back and watching them on 16 and Pregnant, I remember back then watching it and so many people singing their praises, being like, oh my goodness, like we don't blame y'all for putting her up for adoption. Y'all's family life is like horrible. Like, y'all's parents are horrible. There's no way y'all can bring that baby home there. And I remember the praise that Catelynn and Tyler got for putting their child up for adoption. I remember, like, watching the show crying, watching them having to hand their daughter off. And now, all these years later, because all these things happened, and the adoption got closed, and they're like, we would just like an answer why, or we don't agree with this. And now they're educating people on adoption. So many people are mad at them. And to a lot of this is like misinformation too. Like, since I've started, and that's me choosing to believe Catelynn and Tyler's side and some sources that I've talked to behind the scenes that know Brandon and Teresa and Carly. Okay, so because when it first started happening, I definitely leaned more towards Brandon and Teresa. I felt bad that Catelynn and Tyler were led to believe that they would get something that they ultimately did not get. But I was like, oh, well, at the end of the day, like, y'all need to be quiet. Like, y'all could potentially be upsetting Carly. y'all need to be quiet. It's just the possibility that you need to be quiet. Kelly said, I'm a birth mom, and I didn't agree with them until I watched the whole story. My adoption worker did not feed me full of crap like theirs did. Exactly. And that's why I get upset too, because Dawn literally screwed them so bad. Exactly. Like, Farrah has literally went to Dubai, brought Sophia to Dubai, and left Sophia in a lobby of a hotel room while Farrah was working. I do remember that. I remember something like that. Do you remember when Farrah went on another reality TV show and Dr. Jen said that Farrah had gone through the worst thing she had heard in her career? I don't remember it being said like that per se, but I do remember her saying like, oh, she's went through some like pretty tough stuff, but they never released what it is. But I'm like, Farrah's literally put her whole life out there. Like, she's literally talked about, being assaulted by the governor. I think it was the governor. Um, Dawn totally played both sides. Yeah, Farrah flew to Dubai back when she used to be an escort. I think she actually still is an escort, but she flew to Dubai for one of her clients and met her client. This is allegedly met her client in a hotel room and left Sophia, who was literally like 9 years old at the time, in the lobby of a hotel room. And somebody at the hotel called the cops. Tyler and Kate are gaslighting those who struggle with infertility because they cannot take accountability for their own mental health and actions. The reason she's saying this is because Catelynn and Tyler on their podcast, they said that since they have talked to so many adoptees, birth parents, adoption parents, and they've delved into all things adoption, there has been this study that shows that parents that struggle with infertility, that adopt a baby because they cannot have one, has trauma already. And until they deal with that trauma of knowing they can't have a baby, that adopting a child is like not the best thing for them in that moment. That they need to address their trauma with being infertile and address the fact that they know they can't have a baby, go to therapy for that, come to acknowledge that. And, I guess, I don't think you can ever get over it, but get to a point to where you're okay with it, I guess. I don't know, before you adopt a child. Because apparently, like, if you, like, I know on the podcast, they were saying, like, if you struggle with infertility where you can't have kids and you decide to adopt a child, you need to ask yourself 2 questions. Am I adopting this child just because I can't have a kid and I want to have a kid? Or am I adopting a child because I really want to help a child in need? I want to be a family for a child that does not have a family. Because if you are doing it, if you are adopting a child strictly because you can't have one, then that's for the wrong reasons, and you're not going to be what that child needs you to be. You're still going to be struggling with your issues. You're still going to be dealing with your trauma from being infertile. So, and I'm assuming they got that from talking to adoptees and bio parents and birth parents and all the things, whatever. So she's saying that they're gaslighting those struggling with infertility. And I don't know if that's necessarily gaslighting or if that's saying, like, this is what we've heard, this is what we've read about. I mean, Catelynn was on a live stream on TikTok the other day for a few hours with an adoptive mom who said, like, yes, this is true. Like, she said she could not have kids, so they adopted. And it was after she adopted that, like, everything hit her and that she went through like a depression of knowing she could not have her own kids. And she wasn't like the parent that she needed to be because to her adoptive child, because she had all this trauma built up from, and she thought that once she adopted a child, that it would like heal that. Like, oh, now I got the child that I wanted, so I'm fine. But it didn't, because she still knew that she would never have her own biological child. So this adoptive mom spoke on this, saying, like, it is a real thing. So if they're talking to people that says this is a real thing, and if you don't do the work first to deal with that and you adopt a child, like, you may be putting more trauma on that child. So parents that, people that deal with infertility should try to, like, deal with that trauma that they have first before they adopt, And I'm like, if that's what people are out here saying, then what could it hurt? What could it hurt? Because, I mean, if I was told I couldn't have kids, I can't even imagine. I mean, I got 6. I've been pregnant 7 times. So if I would have been told at, like, whatever age you cannot have kids, of course I would have wanted to adopt. That would have been my next thought, like, well, I'm going to adopt, but of course I would have had trauma. Like, I would have had trauma from that, knowing like I'll never have my biological child. I'll never have a child that is a part of me. You know what I'm saying? He needs to go for being on OnlyFans. Like, he's not a good role model for younger people. They did shut down the OnlyFans, and they shut down the OnlyFans whenever, adoption is not a cure for infertility, basically, right? So they shut down the OnlyFans right when Brandon and Teresa cut communication off and closed the adoption. They shut down the OnlyFans just in case that was the reason why. I can't imagine having kids. It's crazy to me how some people stumble into for no other reason than they want to have. No, he needs to go for being on OnlyFans. Like, I already read that one. It's kind of crazy these children don't have lawyers appointed to them to assist in their adoptions. It is really crazy. I'm okay in Tyler's side with this. I don't think the visits should have stopped. My opinion only. All right, so it says they cannot take accountability for their own mental health and actions. I think they have, though. I think Catelynn and Tyler have said so many times, like, yes, we made the decision. Yes, we decided that. Nobody knew what the future held. So, yes, we decided that. I mean, I don't know how much more accountability you can take than saying, yes, we acknowledge what we did. Yes, we acknowledge we wish things would have been different. We didn't know what the future was going to hold. But, maybe I'm missing something. Okay. Perhaps they shouldn't have listened to the other adults regarding their adoption 17 years ago. It was 16 years ago. But anyways, they didn't. I mean, they had April and Butch telling them to keep the baby. They had Kim, who just, when they said we're thinking about adoption, Kim was like, well, y'all can use this agency. And then, they listened to Dawn, who they thought had their best interest at heart. You know what I'm saying? So they have people on all sides telling them, do this, do this, do this, do this. You see, I hope nobody ever gets upset when I say I disagree with it, because I'm like, I don't see Catelynn and Tyler trying to step back into parent. I don't see that. Like, I see a lot of people saying that, and then I'm wondering, like, am I looking at things totally different than, other people? Because I'm like, they were promised when Catelynn and Tyler went to the adoption agency the first time and sat down with Dawn. Dawn said, this will look like you were in the driver's seat of your adoption. It will look the way you want it to look. And up until they signed the last contract, actually, that's a lie. Up until the day they went to court, thank you so much, Dr. King. Up until the day they went to court, Dawn was like, you can change anything you want. Up until we go to court, you can change it. If you want to go from visits once a year to twice a year, if you want to go back down to no visits, I mean, Catelynn said, like, Dawn was like, it's your drawing board. You put on whatever you want to put on it. And if you want to take something off and add something to it, you can do it. Throughout the whole time, that was kind of the way that it was perceived. And she could have. But the reason why she could have is because Dawn knew she can write whatever the heck she wants to in our contract. Let her. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, when we go to court and they relinquish their rights to Carly, and Brandon and Teresa step in as her legal parents, those contracts don't matter. So Dawn had them believing, whatever they wanted to do as far as this adoption. Like, somebody when I did one video on TikTok about this situation, somebody said, open adoption is never face-to-face visits. Never. I have a cousin that's got an open adoption, and she's never had a face-to-face visit with her biological parents. And Catelynn commented and was like, actually, open adoption can be face-to-face visits. But the thing about it is it can be different for every couple. For every couple, especially if you've got a counselor like Dawn, who's telling you you're in the driver's seat of your adoption. Whatever you want to happen can happen. Dawn played them like a fiddle because she Brandon and Teresa had been with the agency for a while looking to adopt a baby. For a while. They wanted a closed adoption. I would love to know how much money they put into this. They paid to adopt Carly. Catelynn and Tyler wanted to put their child up for adoption. Initially, they wanted a semi-open adoption initially, where they wanted to be able to send gifts, letters, know the parents' names, things like that. After they had Carly and saw Carly and spent that couple days in the hospital with Carly, they decided, no, we want full-on open adoption. We want yearly visits. So what they added to it pretty much was yearly visits. And so, yes, an open adoption can be kind of whatever you want it because it's not enforceable. So if you have an adoption counselor like Dawn, they will tell you whatever you want to hear. And that's what Dawn did. So Brandon and Teresa wanted the closed adoption. Catelynn and Tyler wanted semi-open. However, Dawn still gave Brandon and Teresa's profile to Catelynn and Tyler. She knew what they were looking for. Catelynn and Tyler had told them, like, we're looking for, a couple that's more on the religious side, that's, the mom's a stay-at-home mom, that, kind of conservative. Like, these were things they requested. And Dawn sent their profile home with Catelynn and Tyler. Catelynn and Tyler liked them and was like, this is who we want. Dawn knew the whole time that Brandon and Teresa did not want an open adoption. They didn't want a semi-open. They didn't want an open. However, sorry guys, I don't know why my nose is so itchy. So, and I heard that that Brandon and Teresa, and I just heard this, that Brandon and Teresa did not know that the couple they were about to meet wanted a semi-open adoption until right before they met them. That they came in, they flew in to meet Catelynn and Tyler, thinking that they were about to meet potential parents to a child they could potentially adopt, and that it would be a closed adoption. They flew in to meet them under the assumption, because that's what they were asking for, closed adoption. They fly in, and right before they walk in, Dawn's like, oh, they're asking for semi-open adoption, just so you know. She probably was like, but I think I could talk them out of it. So they walk in. Brandon and Teresa meet Catelynn and Tyler. Catelynn and Tyler were very upfront with Brandon and Teresa that they wanted visits. She was like, well, first they were very upfront about phone calls, letters, gifts. She's like, because I know every year around Carly's birthday, I'm like, oh, I got to go shopping for Carly. Like, they were very vocal about that. They were very upfront about that. Thank you, the Cheese Hawks. Thank you. I also heard they didn't know about the show until they came in. I was told that too. I was told that Brandon and Teresa did not know that they were filming for a show, and they did not know that Catelynn and Tyler wanted a semi-open adoption until they got to the adoption agency and right before they walked in the door. Like I said, that may not be the case, but I was told that. So, I think because now here they are, they've met each other. Brandon and Teresa have been with the agency for a while waiting to adopt. And I think once they met them, I think Dawn probably thought that she could convince Catelynn and Tyler to maybe close the adoption. Or they all probably thought, Catelynn and Tyler are so young, there's no way they'll stay together. And if they split up, like we assume they will, we may only have to deal with Catelynn. Because, most of the time dads are nowhere around. Elle Bee, didn't you also say that Dawn knows why B&T closed the adoption, but she can't tell C&T why or something like that? So Catelynn was asked on a live stream, does Dawn know why they closed the adoption? And Catelynn said, we don't know, because Brandon and Teresa told Dawn that she is no longer allowed to talk to us about them or Carly. She cannot talk to us about them or Carly anymore. She can't give us any information. So if they have told her, she can't tell us. Yeah, anyways, I just think, the reason I don't think they're trying to parent, that's kind of where I was going. I got so off track. This is just the way that I look at it. Is I'm like, I don't think they're trying to parent, because it's not like they're asking to get her for the weekends or the summer. They're just asking that they still get their annual visit. And if you watch, like, the last few times they talked about the visit, they were like, we'll come to you. Even if it's just for brunch, Even if we have dinner and brunch the next day, that's all we're asking, just so we can do our annual visit. So I do see people say that a lot, like, oh, now they're trying to co-parent. Do they understand this is not a co-parenting situation? This is an adoption. And I'm like, I've never seen them say anything where they're trying to co-parent. They're just wanting Brandon and Teresa to hold up their end of what they agreed to, is that they would do yearly visits. So, and they're saying, we'll come to you. Well, even if it's just a dinner and a brunch the next day, and then we go home, just a little time to see Carly. That's all we want. So I'm like, I don't see how they're trying to co-parent at all. They're just, this is what they were, and I look at, like, if any of us got pregnant at 17, 16, 17, and we did not have support, we had crackheads for parents. And in our 16 years of living, we had moved 14 times because we got evicted 10 out of the 14 times. If your parents were literally horrible, you had a flea infestation at your house, because right before Carly was born, their house was infested with fleas too. So, and you're like, oh, I gotta think I'm gonna put my baby for adoption. But you knew you really didn't want to, like, that if you had the means, you would keep the baby, but you knew you just didn't have the means. But if you walked into the agency and the adoption agent was like, this will look however you want it to look. Just because you're putting your baby up for adoption doesn't mean you never get to see her. Doesn't mean you never get to, you can still be a part of their life. Like, you can do letters, you can send pictures of yourselves, your kids, you can get pictures of the child all throughout the year. You can have annual visits, you can send gifts, you can do phone calls. You can still know this child. You would be more, if you had no support and you knew there was no way you could really take care of that child, and the adoption agent told you that, the counselor told you that, versus, listen, I'll be upfront with you. You can say you want to open adoption. You can say you want a semi-open adoption. But if you put this baby up for adoption, the second you relinquish your rights, you may never see that child again. The couple that adopts that baby could walk right out of that courthouse, even though they promised you an open adoption, even though they promised you pictures, letters, phone calls, and a yearly visit. From the moment you relinquish your rights, they never have to do it, and you can never see that child again until you find that child after they turned 18, or maybe one day that child comes looking for you. I think we all would be like, oh, never mind. You know what I'm saying? Never mind. No, don't want to do that. But they were not told that. They were not given the truth. I do agree. I wish they would have stayed with, like, the closed adoption, because that's what Brandon and Teresa wanted. They really wanted a closed adoption. I think the excessive text messages were a lie for T. Kate didn't get the hint and just kept messaging. I'll tell you guys why Kate kept messaging. Dawn told her to, and so did some adoptees that she was talking to. So in the agreement, the contract that they had, they agreed that they would continue to update Carly on their life. That's a part of their contract, that they will send pictures, they will send updates. So once Dawn was like, we don't want to talk to you anymore, or once Teresa told Kate that, Kate contacted Dawn. Kate talks about all of this on a live stream that she did. And Dawn said, well, just keep sending updates like you've been doing. That way, for nothing else, like, maybe they'll show Carly, whatever, or you'll have it for your side to show that you continue trying. Also, when Kate was on a TikTok live with it was an adoptee, a birth mom, and an adoptive mom, the adoptee said that she also encouraged Kate. And Kate said, just because Brandon and Teresa didn't want to hold up their end of the deal anymore and they shut things down, we wanted to still hold up our end of the deal. So I went to these people and asked, what do I do now? And they encouraged me to continue messaging, to continue updating, to continue holding up our end of the deal. That way, if for some reason years down the line, Carly comes to us and says, why did y'all just forget about me? Why did y'all just stop? We can say, but we didn't. Here's the proof that we didn't, and that makes it seem like that makes it a little bit more sense. I can understand that if I'm talking to an adoptee and she's like, no, just keep holding up your end of the deal. But now they don't message at all. They do not message at all. They have established an email account for Carly that they email, that they send pictures to. And if Carly comes to them, which I suspect she will, if Carly comes to them and asks them, why did y'all forget about me? they'll have that evidence that they did. Like, here, we have been messaging you ever since we had to quit contacting you, you know? So does Carly know that Kate is still trying, or is she going to have to wait until she's 18? She's gonna have to wait till she's 18, I'm sure. Do you think they were told it could change, they would not have put Carly up for adoption? Yeah, I think if they were told that they could completely cut it off, I think they might would have went with a different. I don't know. I don't know. I was gonna say I think they might would have went with a different couple, but even a different couple could have cut them off. And Caitlyn and Tyler, I mean, they were really made to feel like, whenever the adoption happened, that they were like a part of the family, like, oh, we're all connected. Like, you remember the bracelets that Teresa gave them? Like, oh, we're all a part of the family. I would love to get a lawyer on here to talk about this. Havana says, I like that name. Farrah needs to mind her dang business and take her own advice and seek out a psychiatrist. She can start with taking speech classes instead of running her own dang on mouth. There was an episode a few years ago where Dawn meets with Kate and Tyler and says they weren't sending enough. And Kate said, yeah, I haven't in a while. Kelly says, I found my daughter on Facebook 15 years ago. She and her mom were searching for me too. She was 25 when I found her 10 minutes from me. Our parents moved us to the same town accidentally when she was 1. Oh my goodness. Once adoption happens, it's not beyond the adoption parents to use their authority as May parents to stop contact if hurting their child, if it's hurting them. And see, I can understand that because the way that I look at it is like, I think about Gary and Christina and Amber. Because I'm like, what if Amber would have put Leah up for adoption and Gary and Christina were her adoptive parents? I'll be fully in support of them cutting Amber Portwood off, 100%. I'm in support of them cutting her off now because that's clearly what Leah wants. And we've seen the damage that Leah has. We've seen the effects that it's had on Leah to have Amber Portwood as her mom, Brandon is a minister now. Well, I can tell you guys that I have spoken to a source that knows Brandon, Teresa, and Carly, and I have been told that Carly is very upset about this, that she does not want communication cut off, that her brother, who is also adopted, still gets to see his mom and his bio family, and she thinks it's very unfair, and she's very hurt by the fact that she has been cut off from Caitlyn and Tyler and Carly and Nova and her, Caitlyn and Tyler's daughters. People cannot say Carly loved the visits. They really did not show the visits. How many times did they choose not to go to a visit because it was not convenient for them? These two are, I don't know. I don't know anytime they didn't go to a visit. I remember one time they had planned a vacation that included other people. So they asked if they could switch it. They were like, any other time. Because Caitlyn and Tyler, months prior, their whole family had planned a vacation somewhere. People had taken off work. And then they were trying to work out a time to see Carly for their annual visit. And Brandon and Teresa was like, well, we can do it this weekend. And they're like, ooh, like, we have a vacation plan that weekend already with like a bunch of family members. Can we move it? And Brandon and Teresa didn't want to move it. And they were like, man, I don't know if they ever went to that one, but I don't ever remember them not showing up. So I want to say, I'll try to find the clip because I want to say they said, like, at the end of the day, I guess if we have to miss this vacation, we will. But if they could change it, that would be better. They stopped filming Carly's visits probably when she was about, 3 or 4. But I mean, the ones that we saw, she loved. I mean, she would just glare up at them and she would lay her head on their hands and she was all about them. There was a video that Brandon and Teresa brought to one of the reunions to show them, like, part of their day or whatever. And they was going to read a book to Carly, and they got the book down, and it was the book that Caitlyn and Tyler had made for her, and it's their voice reading the story. And when they opened up the book and they started reading it, she was like, Tata! Like, she immediately was like, Tata! Like, she knew that was Tyler. And she was, like, super happy about it. And just from what I've been told, Carly really loves Caitlyn, Tyler, and the girls. And she was asking to see them more. She had started asking if she could go summers and things like that. And that was something that Brandon and Teresa did not like at all. So that's just from what I've been told from my sources that Carly is devastated. The communication has been shut down. She feels it's unfair that her brother can see his family and, his bio family, and she cannot see hers. Could it be the case mom came drunk? Okay, I will tell you, I asked some questions about this. And this is, you can choose who you want to believe. I messaged Kate and I was like, hey, I'll have some questions. I would love to get Catelynn and Tyler on here to ask them questions because there's so much like, well, this happened, this happened, this happened. So I have so much I would love to ask them. So I messaged Kate and I was like, hey, I see a lot of comments that one of the reasons, people believe Brandon and Teresa got upset with y'all is because y'all brought a bunch of extra people to y'all's last visit. And that that they weren't invited and that your mom came and she got drunk and she wasn't invited. And her response to me is, I would never bring anybody to a visit with Brandon and Teresa and Carly that was not invited and they were not informed would be there. Like I would never do that. So her mom was drinking, but her mom was not drunk. And the reason why it was such a problem. So here's what happened. They go to the visit. Catelynn has a boundary with her mom. Do not drink around me because it triggers her and makes her think of her when she was little and when she was younger. It's a trigger for her. So Catelynn has a boundary. Don't drink in front of me. So they go to whatever dinner with Carly and Catelynn, Tyler, the girls, Caitlynn's mom, I think Nicholas was there, whatever. Well, her mom, April, orders alcohol, which upset Catelynn because she's like, you're not supposed to drink around me, right? So nothing was said at dinner, but after the visitation, after they got back home, Catelynn messaged her mom and told her mom that upset her. That there's a boundary, that like how dare her drink in front of her, especially like while they're there visiting Carly, like how dare she do that? Well, that caused a big old beef between Catelynn and Tyler. Nicholas, Catelynn's brother, then went live and he put out that, there was like a bunch of people there that Brandon and Teresa didn't even know and didn't even prove to be there. But according to what Catelynn said, that's not the truth. So that's kind of how the rumor, that is how the rumor got started. So when Nicholas put it out there, he said they got into it over something that went down at the visitation. Catelynn, however, brought a whole bunch of people that Brandon and Teresa didn't even know. So that's how it got out there that a bunch of people that didn't even know whatever. Well, then Catelynn put up their messages. Catelynn shared the messages of what happened between them. And in the messages, she calls her mom out for drinking at the visit. So then that's how it snowballed into her mom was drunk at the visit. Okay, so from what I've been told, her mom was not drunk at the visit, but her mom drank at dinner at the visit, which upset Catelynn and led to them getting into it. I would really love to know the reason behind the silent cutoff. I couldn't imagine not knowing. There's just different beliefs. I think that's what it is. I think it's because Brandon and Teresa are very conservative. They are Christian conservative. And listen, I'm a Christian, but I love everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to sit here and judge you for what you do. However, they're Christian conservatives and they do not accept, this is just my understanding, they do not accept their children to be exposed to anything other than the way that they live, right? So if you guys look on Catelynn's page, like a while back, she was like talking about the LGBTQ community and her support of it. She has a friend that's transgender that just like a while back underwent like surgeries and everything. Catelynn's been outspoken about like supporting that. I think their political beliefs are different and they don't agree with certain things. So it is my understanding that's what happened. It is my understanding that B and T do not want Carly exposed to anything outside of what they are teaching her. They don't like, how supportive they are of the LGBT. I don't even think they want Carly exposed to like the LGBTQ community. Okay. So yeah. Same. I wish someone would have helped them find resources so they didn't feel helpless about trying to. I know. Yeah. What if Carly wants to go to college in Michigan or elsewhere? B and T probably dictate that too. And that's something else. Is a lot of people is like, well, we'll know when she gets 18. We'll know when she gets 18. And it's like, but really, we may not. Because so many, I remember hearing Catelynn and Tyler talk about the adoptee fog. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like what? And even though my aunt was not actually adopted, she had this fog. So my my grandmother had her youngest daughter, who is my Aunt Niecy, and she separated from her dad. Her dad was really mean. And she got with my Paul when my Aunt Niecy was like a baby, right? Like months old. So my Paul raised my Aunt Niecy. My Paul raised all my granny's kids. And he was like their dad. And my Aunt Niecy had nothing to do with her real dad for many, many, many years. Um, my mom's dad is dead. He died when she was 2, but so they have different dads. But either way, when my Aunt Niecy became an adult, I'm talking about like 30 probably. Her sister on her dad's side found her. She starts with her sister. But she was scared to tell, like, even though my granny and my pa were not like, they probably would be like, whatever. She was so worried to tell them that she was talking to her sister on her dad's side. And then she met her dad. But she did not tell them for a long time because she didn't want to hurt their feelings. She did not want to hurt her dad's feelings, the man that raised her. So for years, she did not like tell them because she was worried. So, a lot of people's like, oh, when they get 18, we'll know then. No, because Carly can be in this space where she's scared to reach out to Catelynn and Tyler because she don't want to upset her parents, the people that raised her. Um, Also, a lot of times, if you are raised, like the Duggar kids, like if you're raised in that like strict environment, um, you are kind of scared to go outside of that. Okay, I guess I just keep hoping it was for a legitimate reason. Well, yeah, I wish it was, but what I'm hearing, it's not like that. I mean, that's what, yeah. If people can raise their kids believing in Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy, they can explain. They can explain gay people to them. In my opinion, trans is a bit different, and that's coming from my own perspective as a lesbian. I mean, yeah, you cannot have your kids not ready for the world. I mean, whenever she does decide to get out on her own, if she decides to go to college somewhere, what, then what? You gonna follow her and like protect her and try to keep flying? No, right, AJ, right. And I hope nobody thinks that's what I'm doing when I say they're conservative Christians. Like, I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying like, oh, they're Christian conservative people, so they hate the LGBTQ. No, that's not what I'm saying because I'm Christian and I don't. So, but what I'm, they're extreme and they don't want their children exposed to anything outside of what they believe in and what they teach and preach in their house. As an adoptee, BNT need to be careful because they can by their action turn C against them. Yeah. If they try to hide her from the world, it will backfire on them big time. Yeah. My daughter was scared to call me, so she had her mom call me at first, and I was afraid to call, so I called from my therapist's office. Yeah. Thank you, the Greyhound girls. Thank you. Yeah, I definitely do. Yeah, for sure. No, there's a difference between regular Christians and Christian nationalists like the Duggars. Yes, yes. It'll be as easy as downloading Instagram and DM and Kate for Carly unless she has her numbers. See, I don't think it will be. If you like, I've started listening to a lot of this lately, and even talking to my aunt. For years, she wanted to know her dad, but she felt it would be disrespectful to her mom and the man that raised her, who she called her dad. So she never sought her dad out. My aunt never sought her dad out. It was hers, even though for years she wanted to, but she did not want to disrespect her mom and the man that raised her. So it wasn't until like her sister on her dad's side reached out to her, and for years she still didn't. And then her dad got sick, so that's when she started actually seeing her dad, and she didn't tell for years. So, I mean, thank you, AJ. Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of times we can look, we can look bad due to others. Yeah, right, Scorpio lady. But anyways, this turned into a whole video about Catelynn and Tyler, which I have plans tomorrow to do another one about legal action, possible possible. Don't run with this. Don't run with this. I'm doing some research into if Brandon and Teresa could get a TRO on Catelynn and Tyler, if they could serve Catelynn and Tyler with a C&D, if they can get them for harassment. I'm doing some research into this, so tomorrow I will be doing a video about that. But yeah, I think Farrah needs to sit all the way down because, girl, for somebody that tried to sell her doo-doo paper, you can't tell nobody they need to see a therapist. Okay. Maybe Catelynn and Tyler might be a little wrong in the way they've handled this at times or whatever. But no, if anybody needs to see a therapist, it's probably the one that tried to sell her doo-doo paper. Or was saying, I will video myself dropping a deuce for 1,000. Okay. Like, come on, girl. Farrah may have issues herself, but fact is what she said, frankly, very honest about them. Take her issues out of it. But I'm like hot meat kettle. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like somebody that murdered somebody trying to tell somebody, like, you actively murdering somebody and you telling somebody that's driving drunk, like, you need to see a therapist. Like, well, you're murdering somebody. Like, be quiet, girl. You know? And I really feel like Farrah just saw that everybody was ganging up on them and she decided to do it. And it's because she don't like them. It's because she don't like them. Because I'm like reading what she's saying. I'm like, what? And a lot, I've seen people say that, like, well, I've never agreed with Farrah before, but I agree with her now. And I'm like, well, what is she really saying that anybody agrees with her with? I don't think they're trying to gaslight anybody that's struggling with infertility. If this is the truth, if there are, Angela says, I was adopted and I can tell you the way both parties are going about this, the entire thing is wrong. Like, if there are people out there, if there are adoptive moms who say, yes, I had trauma because of my infertility, but I went ahead and adopted anyways, and it did not fix my trauma like I thought it would. And then I still had to go through the depression. And for years, I was not like the best mom to my child because I had this trauma that I had no idea. So if they're trying to educate people on that, like, I don't know what the problem is in that. If they have people saying this, people are saying, see and take. I don't know if they're addicts or not. People say Catelynn and Tyler are not addicts when they have admitted they regularly do pot and often drink. I've only ever seen them drink on like the family reunion, which is very much encouraged. They have like the drinks flow in there. Now, I'm not much of a drinker, but I will say if I was on a TV show that sent me to Puerto Rico and they had drinks, I would have like a Long Island iced tea. I probably couldn't have more than one because I ain't drank in forever, like 20 years. You know, speaking of, I have a 20-year-old daughter. My daughter turned 20 yesterday, you guys. So, you know, I don't smoke weed. I don't drink. I'm trying to think. I don't know how much they smoke. I don't know if they actually have an addiction or if they are just recreational smokers. I don't know. You know, I know how they feel about their parents being addicts. So I would hope that they had not become addicts themselves. I know Tyler's sister is like really bad off. There's a lot going on in her life, and it's so I hope they're not dealing with an addiction. Oh, and weed is legal. Yeah, weed is legal. So yeah, and a lot of people would say just because you smoke doesn't make you an addict. I don't know. Ivana says, I believe Carly's adoptive parents wanted Catelynn and Tyler to forget that she existed after they gave her to them. The adoptive parents are spiteful human beings. Shaking my head. What Farrah said, hateful, yes, but it's still kind of truthful. People want to feel bad for CNT because they regret the adoption. Many people make that choice. It's time they get help and heal. I don't think it was necessarily that hateful. I just think it was like, I think she just did it to jump on the train for attention. I don't think Farrah did it for the right reasons. I don't think Farrah really wants to give them advice. Farrah literally lied about them right before she started her comedy tour. She literally said a whole lie about Catelynn and Tyler to try to get them to engage with her. Oh, and Catelynn responded to this. I actually forgot about that. I do feel bad for them because they were lied to. You know, they were completely lied to. They were told that they could have an open adoption, that they could get yearly visits, and they did not know that they could be shut down. So I do feel bad. They got, you know, yearly visits and they got to kind of know Carly and establish somewhat of a relationship with her, and their kids did, And I just think for Carly to have yearly visits with her parents almost every year, skip a year here and there, and for her to establish some sort of bond with them to where she's wanting to go spend summers with them and then just shut that off to where she's established, these little human beings, I love them, they're my bio family. And to just cut that off, like, how does that affect her mental health? And yeah, I think they probably do regret the adoption because of the way that it's panned out. Nobody knew what the future was going to hold. And I think if they maybe would have known it, maybe they would have done something different. But they've done therapy, they counselors. I think them speaking out on it and trying to educate it doesn't mean that they haven't healed as much as they can possibly heal. I mean, how can you heal completely? It's just like, women that struggle with infertility. Uh, can you heal completely? Probably not. But you could probably do enough work to where when you do, to where okay, I can't have babies of my own, but I still want to adopt. So I get the experience, I can be a mom. And so I can help a child that needs a loving family. But I know that's not going to cure my feelings that I have due to my infertility. You know what I'm saying? The adoptive parents feel like they aren't enough because they didn't give birth to Carly and will always be insecure, tying Kate in a way tricked in the adoption. Yeah. Farrah talks because she needs to stay relevant. Exactly. That's why she did this. Oh, let me show you guys what Farrah responded. Not Farrah, Catelynn. Before I forget, I almost forgot. Sorry. This is what Catelynn responded. I think it's funny that I haven't spoken about her in years. Also, we live rent-free in her head. And Reality TV with Ray said, ooh, if she reached out to you in private, do you think y'all could hash out the drama? And she said, honestly, whatever Farrah says doesn't bother me at all. It just makes me laugh. And Boston Mama said, I give you so much credit for not throwing it back at her. Somebody says, as it should, Queen, or as you should. That's why I think, like, if people, and that's if you choose to believe them too, because I talk to people on the other side, and so I'm getting things from both sides. So I tend to kind of, okay, I want to read this. But they chose not to follow the directions of the legal parents. Open adoption is not co-parenting where bio can make demands and cross boundary lines. Okay, so I'm curious, what are they doing that they're, and I hope you don't take this as I'm being rude, because I'm not. What at all? What are they doing that's them like trying to co-parent, and what demands did they make? And, what boundaries did they cross? Because I was under the same assumption of all of this as well. And then I started listening more, reading more, talking more to other sources, and I found a lot of things out. Like, okay, the contract states that Catelynn and Tyler are to send gifts through the adoption agency. Everything's supposed to go through the adoption agency. Well, when Carly was still a baby, Brandon and Teresa changed that. Brandon and Teresa was like, just send it to our house. Here's our address. Here's our phone number. Here's our, send it here. When Catelynn was pregnant with Nova, it's on the episode that Teresa sent her a box of Carly's clothes for Nova because they had their address, because that was changed. And a lot of people don't know this. Like, I see that all the time. Like, when they posted the new contract, the last one that they signed, and it's like, see, it says you're supposed to send everything through the adoption agency. Well, that was changed. Like, when Carly was still a baby, like, Brandon and Teresa changed that. Also, Brandon and Teresa never told them that they couldn't talk about them. They told them, please don't read their messages word for word. That they knew that Catelynn and Tyler was on the show. They knew that's what this was about. Kate and Tyler were kids themselves when they chose adoption. They weren't guided properly. They were doing this on their own. Of course, they will make mistakes. Yeah, this is the house that she lived in. What matters is Catelynn and Tyler actually admit when they overstep and try to correct themselves because they are learning. Yeah. Yeah, like Tyler has said, like, yes, I posted a picture one time unknowingly, and I got mad when they told me that I couldn't. I got mad. I was like, I will if I, he was like, but since then I haven't. Yes, I said I would, but I haven't. That's another thing is like, people's like, y'all continue posting pictures. They have not posted a picture of Carly's face since Carly was little. And that's the reason why. Because what's crazy, though, is when Tyler posted the photo of Carly, they were just on a magazine. Like, Brandon, Teresa, and Carly were just on a magazine like weeks before that. So her picture had been posted before, They had been on photo shoots with them, so it had been posted before. But then all of a sudden, he posted a photo and they got the call saying, Teresa don't want you to do that. Teresa does not want y'all posting her photo anymore. And he was like, what? What do you mean? And it's like, yeah, they don't want her posted anywhere anymore. They want to keep her face off everything. And he was like, they were literally just on a magazine like a couple weekends ago. What do you mean? And yes, they got upset. They did. And he said that. He did get mad because he thought, what the heck? Like, pictures are out there already. Like, she's been on TV. Like, so why now all of a sudden? And he felt like we should be able to post her. So, yeah, he got mad. He said it. It was on the show. But he said right after that, he was like, okay, whatever. Yeah, they're her parents. I cannot make that decision. Since then, they have not posted one photo that was not with the permission of Brandon and Teresa. A lot of people don't know that. They feel that the photos of Carly from the back of the head is done without Brandon and Teresa's permission. And no, the agreement they came to is you can continue posting photos. It just can't be of her face. I'm going to dig more into it. I would love if I could get an attorney on to speak with us about, because I see a lot of people say like, oh, Catelynn and Tyler, they're going to get served with a restraining order. They're going to send them a cease and desist. They're going to get them with harassment. And I'm trying to see like if that's actually possible, because I'm like, I don't think that's possible. Like, they're not actually harassed. They don't even text them anymore. So we have freedom of speech, so I don't think they can do that. Read the adoption records that are posted. I've read them several times. B&T at one point told them what they were doing was too much and to back off. They did not. They make demands on when to see Carly. Do not go when B&T offer no. I don't know I've read all the adoption papers, and I did explain when Brandon and Teresa told them to back off, Catelynn went to Dawn and to some people that that she's become friends with that are adoptees and asked what to do. And Dawn and the adoptees told Catelynn, keep messaging, keep sending updates about your life to Carly, because that's what you guys promised Carly you would do. Just because Brandon and Teresa decided not to hold up their end of the deal doesn't mean you stop. And that way, if Carly ever comes to you and says, why did you stop? Like, why did you forget about me? You can say, well, I didn't. I was still sending messages. I was still sending updates, so that's why she did that. But she has since quit. They did stop. Oh, thank you, Tanya. So they have backed up. They've completely stopped sending anything to Brandon and Teresa. They make demands on when to see Carly. Do not go when B&T offer. I don't know that they've ever made demands, which we don't see their text messages. But I know, like, if you watch the show, they'll be like, message B&T about a visit, waiting on a response, and B&T on a recent episode, or maybe it wasn't recent, but I feel like I watched it recently, but probably because I'm constantly watching stuff about this. But she was like, Teresa messaged back and said they didn't want to do a visit this year. And that's just kind of what it was. Okay, that sucks. They can't do a visit, so and the only time that I ever remember them even talking about possibly not being able to go to a visit was when they had a vacation plan with a bunch of other people, and they had this vacation plan for months. And I've already talked about this in this video, but they reached out to Brandon and Teresa about their annual visit, and they tried. Brandon and Teresa was like, "We'll do it this time," and they were like, "Oh, we have something planned that weekend. Can we change it?" And they were like, "No." And they were like, oh, dang, like, that sucks that they won't budge on the week. And Catelynn and Tyler was even like, if we have to come to y'all versus meeting in the middle, we'll come to y'all. Like, let us keep this vacation because people have taken off work for it. This has been months, planned for months, maybe not. I think he said Dr. Phil is what I think he said. They were on Dr. Drew, that's for sure, because they were on the reunion. But I want to say they even said, like, I guess if it comes down to it and we have to miss our vacation, then we will. But I don't even remember what happened to that. Kate said that the post that she made about if you love somebody, how do you not make time for them? That's what really upset Teresa, was that post. And I could see that. Like, I could see, like, if I'm the mom and you post something about me publicly where millions of people could see it, I'd probably be upset too. But I wouldn't be so upset that I would no longer allow you to see your bio daughter. They have the right to see. That's kind of the way that I feel. Like I feel like everybody has a right to speak their story and tell their life. Unless it affects your kids in a negative way. And I am being told Carly wants to see Catelynn and Tyler, that she's very upset about being cut off. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is defamation and slander. You can't do that. That's what can get you in trouble. We have freedom of speech, but we do not have we still have consequences to that freedom of speech. Yeah, she did. She said, focus on the children that you have. Oh, and then she said something that really did kind of bother me. The child development within this family line is lacking. Like, are you talking about their kids? Because Catelynn and Tyler's not children anymore. So what are you talking about? The child development within this family line is lacking. It's time for them to wake up and prioritize their health. And I'm like, girl, they're adults. So I don't know what you mean. Like, Farrah said that. Yeah. Kate and Ty were also told it was their adoption and they make the decisions. Of course, as kids, they will believe that. Absolutely. Do B and T not think that cutting off contact abruptly when the child wants to see them is harmful mentally to the child? Yeah. So they have to walk a fine line between telling their story and outright trashing the adoptive parents. Yes, they definitely cannot trash the adoptive parents. Which I'm trying to think of anything that they've said that would be trashing them. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. If y'all can, please let me know. Farrah said it. This is also said for Carly. Farrah needs to stay in her lane. Yes, I agree. So Carly's not happy about the adoption being cut off? No, she's not. She's very upset about it. Because Carly had got to the point where she was wanting to spend more time with them. Like summers. Like she was wanting sleepovers. Like Carly loves seeing Catelynn and Tyler and the little girls. Like she is the one that refers to them as her sisters. That's how it first got brought up. It was because Carly was calling Nova and Rhea and her sisters. It was her that started that. And she was wanting to spend more time with them. And communication got cut, but she has an adopted brother that still gets to see his family. And she thinks it's very unfair. And she don't understand why she cannot see her bio family. She should have been sending it to the adoption agency then and not to B&T and let them choose if they wanted them or be kept for their child when she was 18. What do you mean? B&T, when Carly was like very little, told Catelynn and Tyler, here's our address, here's our phone number. It's too much to go to the adoption agency. Send your stuff here. You can call us. Like, because not only were Catelynn and Tyler sending stuff, but B&T had to too. So anytime B&T had to send a photo or anything, they had to go through the adoption agency. So B&T was the one that changed that rule. The reason communication was no longer going through Dawn and only went through Dawn when Catelynn and Tyler couldn't get a response from B&T. And that's the reason that was even discussed. That's the reason she'd be like, so Dawn, have you talked to B&T? Because I can't get a response. That was their normal, was that Catelynn and Tyler text Brandon and Teresa. And Brandon and Teresa text Catelynn and Tyler too. Like throughout these 16 years, you guys, what nobody understands is there were moments where things were fine. And Teresa would send them a picture of Carly and they would communicate and things would be okay. But then, it got to where it wasn't okay for some reason. Things got shut down. However, people that saying, oh, the contract said they should, well, then why did B&T change that? B&T shouldn't have told them, y'all can send this stuff to our house. Here's our address. Y'all can text us, call us, here, send the letters to this address. This is our home address. Like, if they didn't want that changed, they're the ones that changed that. By blocking her birth parents, they are creating more trauma by introducing her to her biological siblings, and blocking them makes it even worse. Yeah, I think if they would have blocked at the beginning, then I could understand that more. Like, very beginning, block it. That way she never got the opportunity to meet them and establish some sort of relationship with them. How many episodes was Carly in? Several. When they were told to stop, CNT followed bad advice and kept messaging them until they got themselves blocked. I believe they stopped for a while. Just, uh, yeah, they did. I mean, they followed the advice of Dawn and then other adoptees who said no, that do what you promised you would do. But now they don't message them at all. How do they think things would be if they kept Carly? I don't know. I would love to interview them. B&T don't sound like they have been extremely flexible where visits are concerned. Yeah. It was given a lot of take later. They listened to bad advice, kept messaging them until they got themselves blocked. If they had hit pause and let the dust settle, maybe things would have been different. Maybe. I think CNT are handling this with grace, especially being in the public eye. They're trying to do what's right by see, but they won't see to know they never stop trying. Yeah. Kate and Tower doing too much at some point without CNT. That B&T wouldn't even be able to have a family. They were so thankful in the beginning for even being able to adopt her. They need to remember that these are the people that gave you a baby. Being their age, I agree. Maybe B&T didn't think they'd go that overboard with messages and gifts. It wasn't a problem, for a while until after Catelynn made that post, apparently. If it wasn't changed on paper, it actually wasn't changed. B&T can take that away whenever, as it wasn't in the contract. So it was changed. Okay, so the last contract that Catelynn and Tyler signed and that Brandon and Teresa signed was an 18-year contract. It was. However, it was with the adoption agency. They signed for a full-blown open adoption, yearly visits, gifts, phone calls, letters. That's what Catelynn and Tyler requested. They requested open adoption. They requested yearly visits. They requested photos. They requested to be able to send gifts. Brandon and Teresa agreed by signing that. When they signed that, they agreed to that request. However, it was with the adoption agency, and open adoptions are not legally enforceable in their state. So it meant nothing. It meant nothing. If I am going to hire somebody to do something to my house and we sign a contract and they say they're going to do this and, they're going to charge me this amount, and I say, I'm requesting that it be done by this date, and I'm requesting you use this type of, materials, whatever. If they sign it, then I'm going to think, oh, then they're agreeing to what I'm signing. They're agreeing to what I'm requesting for them to do to my house. However, if we go to court later on and the court tells me, oh, actually, none of that matters because those contracts are not legally enforceable in Louisiana, I'm going to be like, wow, I just got screwed. They could have set up a P.O Box, or they could have been like, you know what, send it back to Dawn. No longer send anything here. Send it to Dawn. I know I'm not known, and I do not post anything about my children on social media or on public. It's for them to make those choices. If not old enough, yeah, I mean, I don't post anything on here. Now, I have a private account where I post my kids, and they're okay with it. I get they don't follow the same beliefs, but that doesn't mean Carly should suffer. She's not aware of anything they seem to say with her privacy, but come on, there's more personal things with B&T. They not only changed that, but also changed Carly having visits. So they are just allowed to change things up when they choose and aren't caring about the repercussions of all the kids. Dawn shouldn't be giving advice. I agree. I think they're hardcore Baptist, like extreme. Kate and Tyler basically stayed silent except for on the show until this topic come up now 16 years later. I feel like they did not even talk that much about adoption outside of the show where it's pushed until, recently. I believe no one knows if the child asked for it to stop. We assume it's 100%. I've been told by someone that knows them that Carly's very upset about this. Do you think they were just updating and sending stuff too much? No. Political differences is not a justification for traumatizing Carly by severing her contact with CNT, in my opinion. I agree. Best for Carly. More people that love her, the better. Isn't that what they want? Yeah. When they were told to back off, she got advice to keep sending it. She should have started sending it. That's what Dawn should have told her. Dawn should have been like, just send it here. Yeah. Yes, T should have never made CNT like family and state they were, and then C get a voice and cut contact. Yeah, the narrative is now getting out there. It makes them uncomfortable. I get it, but hey, it's the fact if the agency done contract aren't on the up and up. Yes, they do. Because Tyler was like, thank you for trying to see both sides of this. And I was like, you're welcome. You're talking about a human child, not your mate, which I think makes it even more important, which makes it mean even more important. Exactly. I mean, I'm talking about if I ask you to do work on my house and I make you sign a contract saying you're going to charge me this price, you're going to be done this day, which really, that's not what I was trying to compare it to. I'm not trying to compare a child to yard maintenance. It's the contract is what I was trying to talk about. Is if we, as you right now, if you have somebody sign a contract and you're like, my request is X, Y, and Z, and that's just the language. Actually, unfortunately, in an adoption agency, they literally just type that stuff off a template. Okay, so maybe legally it would say agree to, but no, the adoption agency. Literally, I was just looking at paperwork the other day about a house, and it was literally like the seller's request is this, and I could have, as the buyer, could have requested as the buyer, and this is what the realtor told me is you can put in the contract that you request that the seller pay this percent of the closing cost. So I don't think I would say as the buyer, I need the seller to agree to this. I would say I'm requesting that the seller pay 4% of closing cost, right? So that's what they did. They said that they are requesting annual visits. So it makes it even more important. If you yourself ask for something to be done, yard work, housework, whatever, a roof put on your house, and you had a person sign a contract stating what he would do, how much he was going to charge you, when it would be done by, what materials he was going to be using, you would want it done that way, right? You would want it done that way. And then if he didn't, at the end of the day, he said, actually, contracts are not even legal. You would be upset. That's work on your house. Now imagine if it's your child. If it's a child that you birth that you're putting up for adoption because you think you're going to be able to do yearly visits. I think that's going to hurt even more than your roof. You know what I'm saying? Every adoption story is different. I'm the bio grandmother of an open adoption. We are all truly a close family for nearly 13 years. Love and respect is mutual. C&T overstep boundaries and are entitled. FH, thank you so much for the super chat. See, I've heard Catelynn and Tyler talk about this. They're like, what boundaries did we cross? Because the boundaries were established with us all throughout the years. And Caitlin's like, I always get tickled when people say we cross boundaries because I'm like, how do y'all know what the boundaries were? Y'all weren't in the middle of our relationship, And so I ask, what are the boundaries and how are they entitled? And that's what we do understand. In the contract, it also states discretion of the adoptive parents. So if the adoptive parents now feel it's not in the best interest, they can shut it down, which Catelynn and Tyler haven't said they can't. Catelynn and Tyler acknowledge that they can. They're like, yes, we know that it can. We know they can. We know they have that right. They are her parents. They state that. They are her parents. They can shut it down. What we would just like to know is why. When we text and say, well, why are you shutting it down? Is there anything that we can do? We would just like for them to tell us if there is anything that we can do. Let us know. Is it indefinite? Is it until she's 18? Is it for a few months? Speak with us. And I am of the belief that communication is key. Why not talk it out? Why not say, let's get on a phone call and I can tell you what you did? Because there's a child involved here. This is not a puppy. This is not a roof. It's a child who literally is devastated over this. And people don't have to believe me that I've been informed of this, but this person that I'm speaking to knows stuff that people don't know and was able to provide me with absolute proof that they know what they're talking about. Heartbreaking for all parties involved. Unnecessary to cut off all communication after 16 years. I hope when Carly turns 18 and wants to see C&T, that B&T doesn't threaten her by taking things away from her. Like if she goes to college, B&T could tell her they won't help her with financial stuff. I can't imagine having peace in my heart, but they always care. I mean, Carly will see that it matters. So I can't see keeping her away, gaining anything for B&T, even if they think that it's right. Adoptees are 4 times more likely to die by self-inflicted means than their non-adoptive peers. Adoptive and bio parents are left in the hard about this info. I remember watching a YouTube video about some things that were super sketchy about the adoption agency. Yeah, oh, yes. If you dig into the agency that Dawn worked for, it's super sketch. There are so many stories of young girls that were just completely taken advantage of by this agency. CNT didn't overstep, in my opinion. For years, they built this relationship, then wake up one day to no contact. That's heartbreaking. Hey, kid, Farrah running her $50,000 mouth, saying that Kate and Tyler need to see a psychiatrist, which I'm like, maybe we all do. But girl, for somebody that tried to sell poop paper, you can't tell nobody they need to see a psychiatrist. Okay, so does anybody think Catelynn, in a moment of emotion, I've done that. Glad to say I haven't done it too much, but I have gotten upset with my kid's father, his girlfriend, who made a snide comment. And I got on Facebook and I made a post. This was years ago. And I made a post that, um, people that are not a part of the situation should not get on Facebook, because this girl made a post on social media about me and I popped back off on social media. And then I deleted it within like an hour because I was embarrassed, but because I don't like doing stuff like that. But is there anybody on the face of the planet that thinks after allowing a child to have some sort of relationship with our bio family for 15 years to cut it off because the bio mom, in a moment of emotion and being upset, because once again, the birth parents will not don't want to do, the annual visit? Does anybody think that is cause to completely shut down a open adoption? At this point, it was already out there. Exactly. If that was the case, true Christians would forgive. Exactly. You ain't got to forget, but you would forgive. And you guys tell me, is this the reason to completely shut down communication? And adoption is wild. Being at the mercy of someone that can say no. I know I chose this. No need to tell me. I just will never understand how you say that you love us and will always be blessed for us, but you can't take 2 days out of your entire year to just meet up for dinner and do a park or something small, especially when we said we would travel to y'all. I know for me, the people I love and are blessed to have, I make time for them. So now we most likely won't see her until she's 16. And who knows if that will happen. Sorry I had to vent because I just can't wrap my head around the fact that you love and care about us but refuse to make time for us. So this is the post that Catelynn made that apparently Teresa got so upset about that she shut down contact. I can tell you in the background, I'm being told that's not why she really cut contact. But say this is it. Is that like I said, I can understand being upset for a little bit, but to completely shut down contact and close the adoption after 15 years of it being open, and her having this connection with these people and her wanting to see them and her begging to see them and her saying it's not fair that I don't get to see them. Let's be honest here. Did Theo ever follow the rules set? Who's Theo? By the adoptive parents? They probably don't want her being affected by their unhealed trauma. I'm sorry, that's what I see here. Well, 1 or 2 days, a few hours out of the year, a dinner, a park day, how is that really going to affect her? Not doing it, I think, would affect her even more. You and I can think it's unreasonable, but they talked about how they were given no reason when they were. Well, a reason that really doesn't make sense. Because does anybody believe this is really the reason? Does anybody really believe they shut down complete contact because of that post? Because if they did, that really doesn't make any sense, because that's them putting their feelings above Carly's. And I don't think it was, because I'm being told that it wasn't. And it doesn't make sense. I think Brandon and Teresa would probably get over something like that. I don't think they believe that was the reason. I don't think that was. I mean, I guess the reason doesn't have to make sense. You could be like, I ran over a puppy. Why? Purple. Then people would be like, what do you mean? You ran over a puppy? Why? Purple. People would be like, what do you mean? Especially the little family that owned the puppy. They'd be like, why did you run over my puppy? Purple. What are you saying? Can you give me an actual reason of why you ran over my puppy? When things don't make sense, we usually want more of an answer that makes sense. How hard can it be to just meet and have that time? It's not like CNT filmed it. No, I think they are more so into what they believe in their lifestyle overall. That's not the best interest of the child. That's just personal beliefs. It's not an excuse to hold Carly from seeing them. Yeah. They were ready to cut it off. That was an excuse. They already said they wouldn't have visits. Yeah. If it's just about emotion, it would be wrong, but I have a feeling there's more going on with the child that we do not know about, and CNT may not know about this and may know about that as being kept inside the family. I do believe there's a big possibility that Carly may be like, I want to see them more. Well, first off, I know that. I know that Carly is wanting to see them more. I know that Carly was asking to see them more. However, I wonder if she was getting to that stage of like, rebelling a little bit and you're not my parents and I want to live with my parents and you know, something like that. Because I know that can happen. I mean, heck, my daughter, at one point was like, I want to live with my daddy. And I'm like, sure you do. Yeah, because I see adoptees post, but a lot of times the situation is not the same. Like a lot of times the adoptees that say, oh, I wouldn't want nothing to do with them, they were in a closed adoption and they didn't even know their bio parents. I'm wondering about an adoptee who had yearly visits, loved seeing them, had younger siblings that they loved seeing, that it all of a sudden got shut down. How would they deal with it? Brandon and Teresa have been open about their insecurities regarding Carly's adoption and wanting her to see her both birth parents. Like, it's not that hard to get a person to not talk about a child in the media, on social media. I think this is the reason things like all of us discussing their lives and their kids is interesting. And honestly, should we? I don't know. It's all sad. On their podcast, C&T said they will no longer be mentioning her name, only discussing. Yeah, and I think that's the best thing, honestly, is, but people are not happy about it. Tyler made the announcement like, hey, can we not talk about Brandon and Teresa and Carly anymore? Like in the comments, whatever. We're just going to be talking about adoption in general. And people are not happy about it. It's like, maybe it's a little late. Okay, whatever. But at least they're trying to do it now. I don't know. Christina Ricci on TikTok has a very similar story to Carly. That's what opened my eyes to this and gave me a different perspective. I don't know who that is. I'll have to look into it. I will say this, and all the adopted couples on both sides in the world, their situation is like none other than them being filmed for. That's true. That's true too. Anyways, you guys, I've been going for 2 hours. I feel like people will probably not watch the replay on this because, YouTube does not like long streams. They don't like to push them out, and new people for some reason don't click on them. So I don't know, but I have fun talking to you guys about this. Social media is crazy. My daughter's 15 and still doesn't have social media. There's just so much you have to protect your kids against. Different people have different ideas of what that means. I agree. Tomorrow, I'm going to do some more digging, but I do want to do a video on if Brandon and Teresa have any, like, if they have like a leg to stand on as far as like taking legal action against Kate and Tyler. Because I see a lot of people saying that they need to do that. And I'm like, can they? Right, Carly? After this fiasco, the other birth mother is probably afraid to breathe. Yeah, from my understanding, the other birth mother is like whatever they want, Accumulation of negative posts over a long period of time. There's a breaking point. Does not mean always negative, but this is one that broke. Anyways, you guys, we have 338 people here, and I know a lot of people do not agree with me, you guys. And I will say I lean more on support of Brandon and Teresa until I started getting more info, and I got the info about Carly. And I was like, oh no, and I ain't even been able to share all the info that I have on the situation. If I could, I think you guys would even more so be like, oh, wow. You know what I'm saying? But hopefully, one day Carly will do whatever she feels the need to do. If that's have a relationship with Catelynn and Tyler, she'll feel comfortable enough to do that. I worry that she won't, that she'll be in that adoptee fog or whatever. So I do understand Catelynn and Tyler, like having that email, messaging that email, sending pictures of that email. So when Carly does come to them, they can say, we never gave up on you. This is like our proof. I think it's a good idea. But thank you guys for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. This was a long live, and I did not intend for it to be, but I appreciate you guys for hanging out with me. Follow me on my other social media platforms. Probably tomorrow we'll talk about where they stand as far as legal action against Catelynn and Tyler. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.